Hello, everybody. Welcome into the NBA Front Office Show. It's Friday. You know what that means.
Front Office Friday! We're back!
Let's go. We're back, baby. The Front Office Show back in action. Keith, I tried doing the yell last Friday.
I watched it.
I tried. It did not. It did not live up to the huge expectations that you have set with the yell. I did my best. I think the overall average grade when I put them all together, I got like a 6 or a 7 out of 10, which is
that's pretty solid considering it's not what you do. So I appreciate that.
Just barely passed.
Tried your best.
Yeah, I tried. I did what I could, but. Happy to be back in action here on a Friday. We are live. Keith is back from his vacation, so obviously we are back and running here on the Front Office Show. We're going to be taking your questions, your comments if you're coming in from the YouTube channel, if you're coming in over on either one of our X accounts. Welcome in, everybody. We're going to spend the next 45 minutes to an hour or so taking your questions, your comments, and talking about all things NBA. So fire them off in the chat. But first and foremost, Keith, obviously we hope you had a fantastic vacation.
Yeah, it was amazing. New Orleans was incredible. We did not get enough time in New Orleans. It is high on the list of places to return to. What a fun, funky little city with incredible food. We had an absolute blast there and had a great time. And then from there, we moved on to the Dallas area to see my folks. We had a great time with my parents and my sister and her family, and just really good, solid family time. And then on the way home, we got rolling and we were like, let's just go. Let's just push it. We went one day, drove the whole thing home, about 17 hours, 18, 19 with stops factored in there. But we just had to go. So we were like, let's get out of here and let's get home. So we pushed the whole way through, got home and just had a now we're home and trying to get back into the routine. School starts next week. So soccer starts on Monday. So we're right back into the normal deal.
My daughter went back to school yesterday, so today is her second day. So we're right there with you, just a little bit ahead on that one. But you drove for 17 straight hours?
Yeah, we did.
Was there any point in that drive where you questioned your life choices?
A little bit. So here's the issue, right? The panhandle of Florida is so long that you cross into Florida and it's like we're home, but we're still 7 hours from home. So It was like, but at that point, it was like, man, like we feel like we're almost home. And the next thing you know, we looked up, it was like 4 hours to go. We're like, you know what, let's just go. Let's just do it. And we pushed all the way home and made it home in the wee early hours of the morning.
Yes, and ironically, I was in Florida while you were not in Florida. I went to go visit my in-laws in Fort Myers. And so I was in Florida while you were in Texas because, of course.
Yeah. That's how it is.
I
want to address something real quick.
Yeah.
I did not make the Front Office Friday intro. You have my partner in crime here to put on that one. So that had nothing to do with me.
I was trying to be fair and balanced with that. And so there's that. People asking where's Studio Stu? I guess you didn't watch Lakers Nation because Stu, I believe it was my last full show that I did, the last live show that I did. He was all about, we had just gotten back. And so he had to get his on-camera time. He was an absolute pest during the majority of that show. He is around. He is sleeping right now, but yes, he's been around.
I love it.
All right, let's get into some of our news, some of our questions, our topics here.
Let's go here though, real quick. Isle Farcash. Yeah, little profile pic with me and him from Sports Business Classroom. Great time out there. Isle was one of our students out there. It was just unbelievable, experience with us. I've already talked about that quite a bit here on the show, but highly recommended with that. And hopefully that pic shows off a little bit of the weight loss. We're still working on it. Here's the good news, Trevor. I lost 2 pounds while on vacation. So
wow,
I hung in there despite eating quite a bit of good food, but I also walked a lot. And in New Orleans, I think the temperature was approximately 1,000 degrees. So I think anything I ate, I immediately sweat out. But it was all good.
I did the same thing in Vegas for Summer League. I don't know how. I came back like a pound lighter, despite the fact that I ate a ton and we had, a few Dr. Peppers while we were there and all that. But it was, yeah, somehow that happened. I don't know. I mean, I guess the secret to weight loss is just go on vacation. That's it.
Yeah, that's it. And just keep moving, I think. I think that's the whole thing is just keep moving.
Yep.
How tall am I? I'm approximately 7'2". So
Yeah.
there's that too.
So and the teams that are looking for bigs right now, the Charlotte Hornets have
Yeah, give me a
contacted
call.
Keith.
Yeah.
All right, let's go
right.
here.
Let's get serious.
We'll get into it. Kevin Maldonado said Kuminga qualifying offer ramifications to Golden State Warriors free agency. So if Kuminga were to pick up the qualifying offer, obviously that's disastrous to the Warriors and their attempts to get value for Jonathan Kuminga and not see him walk away for nothing, because that would lead to him being an unrestricted free agent next summer, which would open up the possibility that he could walk away with no return for Golden State, plus would give him a full no trade clause this season. So there's a lot that would come with him taking that qualifying offer. But in terms of signing Al Horford, DeAnthony Melton, those types of players this summer, I don't think this changes a whole lot. It gives them certainty in terms of the amount they can spend and the value and all of that. But I wouldn't say it necessarily, like, it doesn't suddenly make it so they can't sign anybody, is where I'd really like to go with that.
Yeah, here's the challenge for the Warriors right now of standard contracts. You have to get to 14. They only have 9 guys under standard contracts right now. So they are the only team, and this still holds true. They have not added a single player this offseason. So they are the same team they were when the season ended, minus a couple guys have moved on in free agency or maybe moving on in free agency. Now, the core of the team is there. Curry, Green, Butler, Buddy Hield, Pajemski, Moody. Those guys are all under contract. So now it's about filling out probably, I'd say, 3 more rotation spots and then going forward from there. So if Kuminga just signs his qualifying offer, that'd be $8 million that would go on the books. And the Warriors would be about, let's see.
They'd be like about 17, 16. Yeah, about 17 million below the first apron.
Yeah, in that range. Yep, exactly. And then you got to add in the roster spots that they'd have to fill and whatnot. But in that range. So that's enough room to use most, if not all, of the non-taxpayer MLE. So you could do that. And then you kind of get into a place where, all right, they just kind of can move forward with filling out with minimums. The challenge why they haven't done anything yet is what they don't want to do is, all right, we're going to give the non-taxpayer, we're going to split it like the Lakers did. We're going to split it between Al Horford, and we're going to split it between him and DeAnthony Melton. That's been kind of one of the hot rumors out there. Well, what that would do is that would hard cap them at the first apron. And let's say that left them, let's just say that left them, 10 million under the first apron. Well, now the Nets could come in and say, great, $12 million offer sheet to Jonathan Kuminga. Warriors can't match it because they would go over the first apron and they wouldn't be able to match it, and they could potentially lose him that way. So that's what they really need to be very careful of with that. The same thing with Kuminga. That's why they have not just thrown him into any major deals, because they don't know exactly what can we offer to guys like Al Horford, D'Anthony Melton, Gary Payton II, who they're rumored to be re-signing. Seth Curry, I imagine that's one of the other hot rumors that he would come in on a minimum deal to finish out probably his run with his brother. So I think we're in a place here where for the Warriors, everything's in a holding pattern on Kuminga. If Kuminga just signs the qualifying offer, he kind of then still retains a lot of control over the situation, and in a lot of ways would be betting on himself. I always say when the clock or calendar flips over to August 1st, which it has today, we are in a spot where now what happens is you start looking at qualifying offer becomes a lot more enticing with these people. Yeah, I love that bet. I'll bet on myself all day. So there it is.
Jonathan
Maybe
Kuminga
he
says,
does say that. I'm going to, go that direction. And that's the same with Kuminga and Giddey and Grimes and Cam Thomas as well. My prediction is at minimum of one of these guys will sign the qualifying offer. I think the others will probably get things worked out, but the later you get into August, the more likely it becomes that players sign the qualifying offer, because they just want to lock something in for next season.
Well, and on top of this, on top of everything you said there, because you're spot on with everything that you said, as usual, of course. But I've been talking about this a bunch over on the Basketball Bulletin over the last couple of weeks as we've been monitoring this situation. But what's interesting is that there's another element to this where, and I think it's a bit far-fetched, but the Warriors are also reportedly a bit concerned that what could happen is if they give Jonathan Kuminga, or I'm sorry, if they give Al Horford, let's say they give Al Horford their taxpayer MLE. They decide, okay, we don't want to deal with a hard cap at the first apron.
Yep.
We're going to hard cap ourselves at the second apron. We're going to give DeAnthony Melton is going to get a veteran minimum. Seth Curry is going to get a veteran minimum. Gary Payton II is going to get a veteran minimum. We're going to give Al Horford the full taxpayer MLE. That would trigger that second apron hard cap. That would theoretically, now again, there's not much out there in terms of cap space, but that would theoretically put them in a situation where there would be a number that they could not match for Jonathan Kuminga. If a team were to come in and give him, say, 30 million, they would have to, the Warriors would be forced to either let him walk or make some other kind of a move in order to open up the flexibility to then match that offer. So that's also a concern of why we've got some fairly big name guys out there. When we talk about Al Horford, you talk about, DeAnthony Melton, a very sought after free agent. I don't know how Malcolm Brogdon works it. If he's a factor, I'm surprised he's still out there. Maybe he's in the mixer, but there's a number of guys who are right now just kind of waiting for this whole thing, and it's because of all those factors that we just mentioned.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's just Gary, I mentioned Gary Payton II too. There's just a whole bunch of guys that are just kind of in limbo until this goes. And there's been a lot of reporting that Al Horford at least has a deal done with the Warriors, and that he's just waiting until things are ready there for him to sign. And I believe that's probably true. I think there was a point in time where if Boston could have got to a place where they could bring him back and stay under the second apron, they would have done so, but that doesn't seem overly likely for the Celtics. So now I think we're in a position where Al Horford probably, if he wants to play, which all indications are he does want to play again, he will move on to the Warriors. So that's kind of where we'll go with that. Question from Cyrax is, why don't they just sign and trade him better than losing him for nothing? Well,
let's talk
about two parts to that, right? The first part is you need somebody who wants to get him and pay him, right? Now, reportedly, the Sacramento Kings and Phoenix Suns have been very interested. Both of those teams have the ability to do a lot of different things. The Suns, as we talked about towards the end of Summer League, they got themselves under the second apron, freed up all kinds of flexibility. There could be a match there, but here's the complications with signing and trading Jonathan Kuminga. There's a thing in the CBA called base year compensation. It only really triggers in a sign and trade situation like this, where I would like to keep the numbers very simple.
He's going to get a big raise.
First year salary of $28 million. Then what happens is on the Warriors side, he only counts as $14 million for salary matching purposes. On the team that's acquiring him, he's going to count for $28 million. So that just creates a little bit of an imbalance there, which makes it tougher to trade. The expanded salary matching rules in trades do make that a little bit easier. But again, the Warriors don't want to do anything that's going to trigger a first apron hard cap for them. So they want to be very cautious of the way they do that. So there's just complications to signing and trading for him. I do think if we get news that Jonathan Kuminga is headed to another team here in the next, month before, we're really starting to ramp up towards training camp, then what that will mean is that will be a sign and trade. That's just the only real logical path forward here. But my guess is this one leans more towards Kuminga signing either a short-term deal with the Warriors that leaves him still very tradable if they want to move him, or he ultimately just signs the qualifying offer, and that's how it goes forward.
Well, and I think from a value perspective, we have to remember that what the team that would want Jonathan Kuminga in a sign and trade from their perspective, you have to not only want to give Jonathan Kuminga, say 28, but I think it's probably going to be closer to 20, maybe it'd be 23, maybe 24, whatever. But they have to be willing to give Jonathan Kuminga that much money and want to give Jonathan Kuminga that much money badly enough to give up assets in order to have the privilege to do that effectively, right? That's the perspective from that side. Now, the Warriors, I think what's also complicated things is the Warriors reportedly don't want to take back salary that goes into 2027. So when we specifically look at the Sacramento Kings, we look at it would probably be a deal involving Malik Monk. His salary goes into 2027 with the player option. For the Phoenix Suns, it would probably involve Grayson Allen or Royce O'Neal, maybe both. We'll see. But those salaries go into 2027. So that's a complicating factor in and of itself. There's a lot of things where you've got three parties that all have to be satisfied in any type of sign and trade scenario, at least. And so that's a big factor in all this, and why it's not as easy as it sounds to just sign and trade him somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's that rumor of Malik Monk and a pick for Kuminga. That one seems to be, to me, one that makes a lot of sense. But you're right. The Warriors they're really trying to thread a very small needle here, which is we want to be really good and in contention this year, which they should be with their core if they can add the requisite depth necessary. But we are willing to move forward with that. But we don't want to do anything where we're taking on big money moving into the out years. Right now, I mean, you're talking Moses Moody's kind of the only guy with money beyond the next couple of seasons. And I think the Warriors are in a position where what they would like to be able to do is, if Stephen Curry retires 2 seasons from now, they want to be able to hit a hard reset and say, we're done. We're resetting the entire franchise. And you don't want to do that with $25 million for a player on the books that maybe you don't really want, which is also why they're not willing to just give Kuminga a 4 or 5 year deal worth 20 to 25 million a year, because they don't want that money on the books. We're a couple years out on this, so who knows? And heck, maybe Steph keeps playing. Who knows, right? He's still playing at a very high level. But I think with this, they would be in a position where what we would see is, I think they're going to, whenever the reset does come, I don't think you're going to see the Warriors reset and go into a full rebuild. I think you're going to see them try to reset very quickly around max cap space. This is a destination. This is a place where players like to be. So I think they're going to try to do a very quick flip right back into contention if they can.
And that's part of why they're so cautious about making sure they get back enough assets in any kind of a Jonathan Kuminga trade, because they want to have as much flexibility to pivot. And should their post Steph Curry stars suddenly become available, they want to be able to be truly in the mix for that player.
Exactly.
And now, Keith, let's say Malik Monk is involved in this. How does that actually play out math-wise on both? I mean, I guess we don't have to break down all of it, but with base year compensation, can that really work with the Sacramento, or is a third team need to get involved to take on Malik Monk, especially if the Warriors don't want 3 years under contract? Like, how do you handle that?
Yeah, I mean, the second part of what you said there, that's a little different, right? If the Warriors don't want him contract running into 27, 28, then they're going to have to make a decision on that themselves to figure out, all right, then we get a third team. But just straight math-wise, so Malik Monk makes, I believe it's about 18.8 million. It's 18.8 million for him. So what you would do there is you get an $8 million kind of plus to that, the way the trade bands work. So as long as Kuminga's salary comes in, under 26 million or so in first year salary, which reportedly it's been rumored about 25, basically the average annual value. So now you're talking probably 22-ish to start out with. They're fine. They could make that match work. That's the expanded trade bands really coming into play for teams that are under the tax. That amount, I believe it's like 7 million to 33 million. You get that plus 8 million. That's huge. And those tax bands now with the CBA, they flex by whatever the percentage of the cap grows by. Those bands will grow by as well, which is big and really important. In past CBAs, those bands were just locked to a number. And when they were locked to a number, I mean, we're getting to a place where $25 million contracts are going to be very commonplace, and they would have been locked in on the highest level. It would have been very hard to add and stack up money in trades.
So in that scenario, let's say Kuminga does come in. Let's say he's right at 26 million, right? And Malik Monk's in the deal. So then the Warriors are effectively sending out 13 million in salary. The Sacramento Kings are accepting 26 million in salary. both teams are theoretically accepting more salary than they're sending out. Both would trigger first apron hard caps, but the Warriors could avoid that if they were to put another player in turn it into a multi-team deal and send like a Buddy Hield or something like that somewhere else in order to send out
I
enough
was gonna say
salary.
Buddy Hill back to Sacramento would be funny.
Yeah, that would be funny.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, there's a number of ways they can work around this if this is where they want to go.
Okay. Anyway, that's probably enough.
That was a lot of Jonathan Kuminga talk.
That's a lot of Jonathan Kuminga.
I mean, it's the story right now, right? It's
is
him and Gideon Grimes and Cam Thomas are all just still sitting there. I mean, it's August 1st, and these guys are not signed. Like it's a big story. Somebody asked about reinventing restricted free agency. It's restricted free agency is a really tough one. The Players Association would love to get rid of it. But in order to get rid of it, they're going to have to give major givebacks to the league side, to the team side to get rid of it. And if the team side, is going to insist on it, the Players Association gets things on their side. So it just becomes very, tricky for them to kind of work all that stuff out.
All right, let's talk a little bit about the Mikal Bridges signing. He got a 4-year deal yesterday with the Knicks.
Yep.
Going to come in right about $150 million, which is slightly less than the max that he could have got. But what are your thoughts on signing right now, not waiting till August 6th, like we saw last year with Lauri Markkanen, and thus restricting any trades? I don't think the Knicks would sign this deal specifically now saying because we want to trade you. But do you think there's anything to the timing of this in terms of it still allowing trades to potentially take place this next season?
Yeah, and if this is James Stanzoni, he was one of our students at SBC, one of our standout students. He was really, really good. Really knows his stuff. I'm really excited that he's checking in here. So yeah, Mikal Bridges. I think I don't think the holding to August 6th was going to be a thing for him. I know that became a thing with Lauri Markkanen last year. That became a thing where he purposely waited until he couldn't be traded to do that. Now that's, I think, more for Lauri Markkanen. That was let me protect myself a little here because the Jazz are very much rebuilding. I don't know that there's a world where the Knicks are looking to trade Mikal Bridges. I think for them, they would want to, do something more in line of that would have to be a pretty big deal for them to move him. So I think this was signed with the idea of we're ready. It's done. Let's just get it done. Let's get it signed. So again, now it's not holding over us to the for the next couple months, and then when training camp starts, it's all the questions are going to be about this. Let's just move forward, and now we've got our core locked up for at least the next 3 seasons. Then we kind of go forward from there. I was a little surprised with Bridges. I thought he might do a 2+1 in a line with Brunson and Anunoby, but why not? He's a little bit older, so why not get that extra year in there? And pretty solid value. All around. I think for Bridges, what it come in at about 37 million annual value. That's pretty solid. I had him about 37.5. Is where I thought it would land. So you come in right around that number. Took a little bit less, much like Jalen Brunson did, which is big. And now we kind of will turn eyes towards Karl-Anthony Towns. Are you gonna do an extension that kind of adds a couple years on a year deal? Will it be a little bit less? Will Mitchell Robinson do something? The Knicks are really loading up here to make a run over the next couple of seasons, and they're in pretty good shape to do so.
Yeah, if I'm the Knicks, I'm looking at the East right now, as a number of teams are, and I'm saying, you know what, we can make the run. In fact, if I had to rank the East right now, I would have the Knicks as my number 2 team in the East behind the Cavs. And now, will it finish that way? Who knows? There's a lot of mobility within the Eastern Conference. But when I look at the Knicks right now, I don't want to go into camp. I don't want to go into the season with Bridges heading into free agency next summer. I don't want anything to distract from the season. I want everything taken care of. Now you've got your group. You've got Towns, OG, Brunson, Bridges, Hart. That's your core. Deuce McBride is under contract for 2 years. We'll see what happens with Mitch Robinson, but you've got your core pieces in place for the foreseeable future, and there you go. And this is what we're building around, and check ball. That's what the Knicks want to do here, and so I don't blame them for this deal. I think it's a solid deal. I don't think they would sign this contract with any eye towards trading him.
Nope.
I don't think that's not the intent of signing this deal. I don't think the date necessarily changes all that much here either. Um, yeah, I think this was a fine deal for the Knicks to sign. And now you've got your squad moving forward here. And who knows, if things go the way the Knicks want, they could be in the finals come June. That's certainly within the realm of possibility with this team.
Hey, we're close this year. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, if that Halliburton shot doesn't drop in game one, who knows how that series plays out, and maybe the Knicks are the team that makes the finals. But yeah, I think they are really in good shape here. I think they've done a good job managing the books. They've had some trickiness with the Towns trade initially, the way they had to piece that together and giving all those guys the deals that were $1 over the minimum and all the stuff they had to go through to do that. And then, kind of manipulating the calendar the best they can to try to get them in position to stay under the hard cap that they put on themselves. Now we're going to be in the same boat again this year. They've got a couple more rush spots they've got to fill, and they're a little bit tight again to the second apron hard cap. So we'll see what that looks like. But it's a really smart front office in New York. They've built this team really well. I love the Yabusele and Clarkson additions for them. Just give them a couple more guys to bring in off the bench. I think this team is now legit 9 guys deep. And who knows, maybe there's one more veteran minimum signing to come. Maybe guys like Tyler Kolek, Bakam Dadie, or Ariel Huck-Porty are ready for bigger roles this season than they were next season. But this team is pretty solid. I think the Knicks are going to be a really tough team in the regular season, and I think they're going to be a really tough team come playoff time as well.
So the other piece to this, I think we have to keep in mind when we're looking at a deal, because there can be some sticker shock with a Mikal Bridges contract. Oh my gosh, 150 million. That's so much, But you look, he's going from 16% of the cap this year to 20% next year.
Yep.
We're talking about a 4% of the cap increase. And then it stays right about at 20%. It finishes out with the player option at 21.7% of the cap. Yep. I don't look at Mikal Bridges and think, 20% of the cap is unreasonable. I think when you put it in those terms, it softens the sticker shock of that $150 million extension.
Yeah, I mean, look at that entire row. Look at 27, 28. I mean, all these guys are Cat's the highest paid guy by a pretty big amount. That's obviously his former contract. But my guess is, because this is now allowed in the CBA, you're going to see him opt out of that deal. And I bet that number comes down a little bit. Not a lot, but maybe down to like 50 to 55 million. Then now all of a sudden he's at 30% of the cap. You got a couple of the other starters that are in the range of 20 to 25%, and you're in really good shape in New York. I think this is a really solid built roster, and I think they're really, really ready to go. This could be the next year to break through, because you've got New York and Boston and Indiana kind of taking a little bit of a gap year. The Cavs are going to be really, really tough. I'm the Cavs and the Knicks, and I don't break through this year and we fall short, then you got to start having really serious conversations about, all right, is this core group for either franchise, are we going to get there, or do we need to look at it? But as it looks right now, those teams to me kind of separated themselves in the Eastern Conference by a decent margin.
All right, let's go here. Alex Walton says, does this Mikal extension make what Austin Reaves is looking for change? What about Jonathan Kuminga? Mikal is better than both of them, and they're asking for the same. That's not. We've heard Kuminga wants up to 30 million, and the offers are more like low 20s, 20 to say 23. The Kings offer that came out today for Sam Amick would have been 63 million for 3 years. The Suns rumored to do something around 90 million for 4 years. So we're not talking apples to apples there in terms of how much Kuminga is wanting. And then Austin Reaves is going to take this season and try to prove what he's worth next summer. I don't know that they even have a number in mind. Obviously, he turned down a 4-year, $89 million extension, but I don't know that suddenly bumps up to $150 million just based on what Mikal Bridges got. I think it's going to depend greatly on how this season plays out.
Yeah, 100%. And then I think there's going to be a lot of work done with Austin Reaves and the Lakers. He obviously has no intentions of leaving the Lakers. In the Lakers offseason, I mean, I don't want to skip all the way past this upcoming season
Exactly.
before it even starts, obviously, but that's kind of the world you live in now. We'll see what happens with Luka, right? He's extension eligible tomorrow. There's no indications whether he'll do that tomorrow or if he'll wait till after EuroBasket or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. And I'm not even trying to enter into any, oh, let's panic Laker fans. I think it's just a matter of he'll sign the extension when he signs the extension. I don't think anybody should worry about that. I am very certain Luka's going to do a 2+1, which then gets him back on the market when he gets to 10 years of service. And that's how he goes. But with Austin Reaves, what you may see is if his desire to stay with the Lakers and obviously help be a part of a title contender, if that means, I got to shave off $5 million a year, he may do that. I don't know that he's going to be somebody who needs to bleed for every last dollar because he didn't do it last year when he could have last couple of years when he was restricted free agent. He could have let that situation play out where he could have signed an offer sheet and forced the Lakers to match and gotten more money and all that stuff. And ultimately, at the end of the day, he said, let's just get this done with the Lakers. I don't want to go anywhere. But there's going to be a lot of moving parts for the Lakers. Really, it's almost kind of starting now for them all the way through the trade deadline. That'll help inform where they're headed this offseason. And a big part of that's going to be Austin Reaves in his free agency because Luke is getting a max. That part is clear.
Yeah.
We all know that. There's no question about that.
He's getting whatever he wants.
Exactly. Yeah. If Luke is like, hey, and I also want to paint the team plane in the Slovenian flag colors. Great, done. Finished. Right. We're good. But yeah, he's going to be able to do kind of whatever he's able to get, and then we go, and then everything else will kind of orbit around that decision for the Lakers.
Well, and one of the things to note with all of that, and I agree with you ultimately that a 2+1 makes the most sense for Luka. There was reporting about a week ago that he's going to take the full 4 year.
Yeah, we'll see.
And do that. We'll see if that ends up being accurate or if that was more something lost in translation and it was hey, this is what he could get. Because I do agree ultimately that the 2+1 makes the most sense because that would allow him to get out at 10 years and then sign for a 35% max from there. So, but bottom line, I do expect that it's going to happen. And I believe there is optimism that it's going to be like pretty quick. He's not going to be something like his schedule was released with his Jordan Brand tour, it includes a stop in Los Angeles. I'm like,
maybe
that's
it gets
not
done.
coincidental.
Yeah. And guys get weird about some guys want to get stuff done right away and get it locked in and be finished. So then they can go off and do their other stuff. Which in this case for Luka is EuroBasket. We did have a question. I think I
yes. Yeah. I've got it here. Let's put that up right now.
Yeah, here it is. Man, I miss basketball so much. I'm excited for some EuroBasket. Do you all know how long that will last? August 27th to September 14th is EuroBasket. Yes, I have those dates memorized because I am also very ready for it. I'm super excited. But, for basketball wise, you've got the WNBA season is going on. If you want to check in, WNBA hoops is very high level. Really, really good stuff. And then you've got the basketball tournament, I believe, is happening right now. If you really got to check in and just, kind of get that itch done there. So I'm really kind of excited about that as well. But yeah, EuroBasket at the end of the month. So you get a few more weeks to go. Then EuroBasket will be going on. But those games are super duper early in the morning East Coast time. So you might be having some late overnights there, but there's some good stuff. And I think let me make sure. I think I still have it up. Yeah, I do. I think Luka and Slovenia play Jokic and Serbia in the they don't. I was wrong.
They don't.
Never mind. No, they play France though. Which should be pretty good there. So maybe it's lined up for like a second round matchup or something. But yeah, it's EuroBasket is a lot of fun. And then we got news like which is great news for him. Kristaps Porzingis is going to play in EuroBasket for Latvia. He's feeling great. He's finally over whatever that mysterious illness is there, and it's that's really good as well. So I'm pretty excited for EuroBasket to start up.
Yeah, I am too. This is something kind of like we had the Olympics last year. It was something to kind of tide
Mhm.
us over until
Yeah.
the NBA season can get going
Yeah.
again.
This one will take us almost right into training camp. You
Just
only have
about, yeah. I mean,
about 2
straight through
weeks.
to the 14th. I my vacation was booked before the EuroBasket schedule came out, so unfortunately, I'm going to miss like the end of it. But I'll be back before training
You'll be
camp and
more
everything. So
on EuroBasket
I'll
time,
be on
maybe,
more in
which would
EuroBasket
be
time, but
nice
I
for
have
you.
a feeling
So
it may be a little difficult to find.
yeah, it might be a little difficult to find, and you might be a little bit divorced if you start skipping out on vacation to go watch
I
EuroBasket.
was already telling my wife, I'm like, I'm gonna bring stuff with me so I can get some stuff done. She's like, "No, you aren't." I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm
Yep.
like, I'm
I
gonna do
had the
some stuff.
same
Come on.
conversation, and she said, "Look, if LeBron gets traded, I get it. You need to go record." She's like, "But other than that, like, no." The answer is absolutely not. So,
All right, let's go here. Uh Travon said LA was a 3 seed and it wasn't because of Dorian Finney-Smith. I mean, it was in part because of Dorian
sure.
Finney-Smith. So why does everyone have us worse when we added two starting caliber players and a great young wing? So I guess, and I've talked about this a bit on Lakers Nation, but like I think you can make an argument for either side of the trade-off of essentially DeAndre Ayton and Jake LaRavia or Dorian Finney-Smith. Which of those two sides would you rather have?
Mhm.
I don't know that the Lakers necessarily have that option. I think Finney-Smith was signing with Houston, but we can argue over what would be better for the Lakers. I do think in terms of youth, obviously Ayton and LaRavia have that on their side. I don't think it's that everybody has the Lakers worse because of what they did. I think in a vacuum, they had a strong summer. I really
Mhm.
like what they did, and I like that they still have plenty of future flexibility. They didn't surrender any of their future trade assets, with the exception of some cash given up on draft night. What I think why people have the Lakers not as say the 3 seed, and they have them more in a different tier in the kind of 4 through 8 tier right now. It's not so much about what the Lakers did, it's what everybody else did. It's what Houston did, it's what Denver did, the Clippers, right? These other teams had really, really strong summers that made what people are perceived to be more impactful moves than what the Lakers did. So it's not about
Yeah.
the Lakers. I think the Lakers had a good summer. It's about the rest of the West.
Yeah, that's exactly for me. That's exactly where it is. I think for the Lakers, when they came into the start of the offseason, they had very limited resources to work with. And they did really well to add 3 rotation guys with those resources. That's huge, especially
Mm-hmm.
once it was clear Dorian Finney Smith was moving on. So now we're just in a spot where it's just the conference is really, really deep. Oklahoma City's kind of by themselves. Then I think most have Denver and Houston in the next group behind them. And then from there, it's a whole bunch of teams that tell me who's healthy for most of the season, and I'll tell you what the standings are. We
Yeah,
don't know that question, so that's going to be, or the answer rather. So then we'll kind of see where that is. But yeah, I mean, you could tell me the Lakers still finish. You could tell me the Lakers finish ahead of Houston, or maybe if Denver doesn't push quite as hard, I'm not going to argue with you too much. I'm
sure.
sure, why not? Like they're pretty good. You could tell me they finish fourth or fifth. I'm not going to argue with you too much on that either, just because the conference is really solid. So I think that's the range, for them, and we'll see. We'll do probably sometime over the coming weeks before Trevor goes on his vacation. We'll
Mm-hmm.
probably put our teams in tiers in the
Yep.
West because it's a little easier than just predicted standings. We'll do that, much later before the season starts. But yeah, tier groupings. I think that kind of third tier in the West is really good. And, I'm not even going to argue too much if you put the Lakers in the second tier. I'm
Sure.
not going to have a huge issue with that. I mean, here's the thing. I was asked about this morning on radio about Luka, right? Like ripped Luka, like looks really good. I don't know that it changes what Luka does as a player on the court. Because if it does, well, then just hand the Lakers the title because that means he's the best player in the world again. Because he's already awesome. But what
Yep.
I do think this changes is if he's in better shape, I think he can play deeper in the games and be more efficient deeper in the games. And I think he can play more games. I think he'll be less likely to pick up those kind of nagging injuries that he tends to pick up that come with not always being in the best shape. So if he hits really good, it's funny because somebody's like, could Luka go up another level at you? I'm like, if he goes up 2 more levels, we're starting to talk about him with MJ and LeBron as the best all time because he's already really close to that level. I just think it's going to be his stamina will be better, and that's big for the Lakers overall.
Yeah, I think it's a stamina thing, and does it improve the lateral quickness at all to make it slightly more difficult to drive past him? That's all you're looking for. It's the stamina thing. It's the of course taking weight off the joints and all of that kind of stuff certainly matters. And people say, "Oh, but he's gonna get bullied now, or he's gonna get bumped." No, I mean he didn't really get bullied much when he was thinner early in his playing days. Like he is still freaking strong. So
yeah, if you can have him guard more wings than have to guard power forwards, which that was the challenge for the Lakers, right? You had him and LeBron both needed to kind of guard the same guy on the other team.
Rui, frankly, too. Like they all kind of guard the same
Rui
player.
can at least hold up a little bit against some of the bigger wings. But yeah, they quite frankly, that's still probably the single biggest weakness for this team is point of attack defense. They just don't have a great on ball defender unless Marcus Smart is able to get back to that level. And that's going to be the question. But, from there, we'll kind of see where that goes. So, but again, you've got some flexibility here to do some stuff if you need to. There's still some pretty tradable contracts on this team. They didn't move their draft picks, so they're in a position where they can do some stuff. When we get into the year if they need to.
The way I look at it, and I don't want to turn this too Lakers centric here, but the way I look at it is that when you look at this team with the summer they've had, they have essentially given themselves they've given themselves the opportunity to go into the season with this team and then truly see what their strengths and weaknesses are because they've 100%. Made the moves that they have. I don't think they've made moves that have put them over the top, but what they've done is they've given themselves the ability to say, we've done some things. We think we've improved. Now let's go into the season, and then mid-December, we'll really get a sense of what this team actually is and isn't, and see if what we believe they are and are not on paper is correct, and then we can adjust accordingly.
Yeah, absolutely. One, it's Keith, not Kevin, and he did it twice. And then buyout of Vooch. So Vooch is not getting bought out. Maybe that happens if he doesn't get traded.
That was you were probably driving at the time, but it was I believe a misaggregation of Jake Fisher. Yeah, and I've talked about that a bit on the bulletin.
Yep. So he is not that's probably not going to happen again. If we get to the deadline and Vooch is still there, challenge for the Lakers is who knows where they'll be with the aprons at that.
They're
point.
only one
exactly. If they're that close, then it gets really hard to try to kind of sign him there. So we'll see with that, but all signs point to Vooch, and it's the Bulls, so the Bulls will probably just keep him, and they'll keep him, let his trade value expire, and then just kind of.
The Bulls are going to get offered 4 seconds for Vooch at the trade deadline. They're going to say no, we want a first, and then he's going to walk in free agency next summer.
Yeah, and then there'll be that's probably exactly
that's such a Bulls thing. It's funny. The Bulls playbook.
Yeah, and I was talking with a bunch of people, and I was like, look at this cap sheet, remarkably clean cap sheet.
Yeah.
Even if you added Gideon at $25 million next year, they're still in really good place. But it's like, does anybody have any real trust that they're going to do anything great with that cap space? I don't know. It's just sad. Let's move on because I don't want to be sad here. It's our return show, and the Bulls just make me sad.
Yeah, man. I just keep hoping they'll get things kind of sorted there in Chicago. Do the Lakers make 0, 1, or 2 trades? I'll say 1. I think they'll
before the season starts.
Oh, if it's before the season starts, I would say 0. Yeah. Before the season starts, I would say 0.
Trade deadline, 1. Probably, maybe 2.
I'll say
and I don't know that'll be any major blockbusters, but we'll see. Kevin Cannon might be retired for a little bit.
I'm going to replace Kevin Durant's face with your face.
Yeah, right. I know. It's the Kevin Smith thing, man. If I had made Clerks, I don't know that to be doing this with you.
There you go.
As much as I love you, buddy, I might be making quite a bit of money.
we would be doing this every day from a studio is all.
That's it.
We'd be in our own studio and we'd be in person. A Nets Daily article says the Nets may absorb a big contract for assets before handling the Cam Thomas situation. The Nets will remain a big mess for 4 years.
I mean, I don't
Where are
want
they even at right now in terms of cap
about
space?
28 million or so, give or take, factoring in some other stuff. I think
You said
that's
they're
his
at 28. Why are they at
Yeah, but
19
go
million?
up because I think that's already factoring in. Keep scrolling up. Yeah, you've already got Williams and Sharp.
It's Williams and Sharp already on the okay.
Yeah, so if you
Got it.
kind of take those guys out of the mix, yeah, they should be at about roughly 28 million. Report today came out they're going to get Ricky Council the fourth, which a little bit of a surprise waiver in Philly. I didn't
Mhm.
think that would be the way that would go, but that's good pickup for the Nets. Just kind of keep churning it. This is when Sean Marks has historically done his best work, is when he can
Mhm.
kind of churn that team. You saw Yegor Demon. They asked him at Summer League. This was in my Summer League notebook on Spot Track, which I had a ton of notes on all 30 teams, split up East and West. But the question that I asked was, Yegor Demon, what was his role at Summer League? And it was let it fly. They just wanted him to shoot. And that's
Yep.
what he did. And he held up pretty well. They know he can handle the ball. They know he's going to be a pretty good playmaker. So, it's the Nets are got some work to do, but I'd be D-Rock. I know it's frustrating, but I would probably be a little bit more, I'd be a little bit more optimistic than this.
And
Give it
especially
time.
when we're talking about to bring things full circle, the Kuminga situation, if the Warriors don't want to take back a long-term salary, the Nets could wind up being the team that takes on that contract with a Malik Monk or a Grayson Allen or Royce O'Neal or something like that. Maybe they wind up flipping that player again by the trade deadline, and then there you go, and they can get some assets for doing so. So I think they're in a good position overall. The Cam Thomas thing, Keith, I want to float a concept that I actually am talking about on Basketball Bulletin today, because there was a report, I believe it was the New York Post. Anyway, there was a report that Cam Thomas looks at guys that are essentially making 30 million, specifically Tyler Hero, Emmanuel Quickly, RJ Barrett, and says, I'm on that level. And it's not necessarily a conversation about being on that level that I'm interested in, whether or not he actually is. It's more that I think those are the contracts that teams have to be particularly careful with under
Mhm.
this collective bargaining agreement. Like the max guys that are the clear, like Luka is a max and he's going to get a max, no problem. Your veteran minimums are your veteran minimum, like whatever. Teams are being more careful with non-guaranteed money and contracts and stuff like that. But if Cam Thomas is pointing to the Tyler Heroes of the world, the RJ Barretts of the world, those are the guys where teams, if you have too many of them, where teams can really get into trouble because they're not necessarily your 1A guys or even your second best guy on a good team. And if you stack up a couple of those guys and then you still have to have two max level players to really do something, suddenly you find your roster looking very thin. So if Cam Thomas is pointing at those guys and saying, I want that kind of money, as a team, I'm just being very cautious for any guy that's going to be in that $30 million range. I have to be very certain that he's worth it versus the depth that I would have if I just had, say, two MLE level guys. I think that's, in terms of macro level roster building, that's a big thing that we're going to see play out here in the NBA. These 30 million ish guys, is it worth it to have that versus two guys making 14 million?
Yeah, I don't have a lot to add because I'm with you on that. I think you're going to be very careful of we all know it's very damaging if you give out a max deal and overpay the guy and
Yeah.
he doesn't return max value. Everybody knows that. It's that next contract down. It's that one that is somewhere between 25 and 30% of the cap. That's where that can get really messy. And that's ultimately where Cam Thomas was, I think, hoping to land this year, was a 25% of the cap max. And it's very clear now that's not going to be the case. So I think for him, he seems like the most likely to just sign the qualifying offer guy to me of this group of restricted free agents. Maybe Quentin Grimes is getting close as well. Only because I don't know where Cam Thomas's long-term future is with the Nets. I think there's still Josh Giddey has a long-term future with the Bulls. I think Jonathan Kuminga doesn't have a long-term future with the Warriors, but he has a long-term future with somebody else. So that opens up to him being traded. Cam Thomas is just very hard to kind of peg because I think the Nets they're just moving in a different direction. And to your point is, I think as they go forward, they don't want a $30 million contract on the books for a guy who is a very, very good player. Cam Thomas is a really good player, great scorer, better than he gets credit for, playmaker. I continue to believe his best role in the NBA would be as a high-end scoring sixth man off the bench on a really good team. Jamal Crawford, Lou Williams, guys who built entire careers around doing that. I think that's where Cam Thomas should be. So we'll kind of see where that kind of comes, moving forward for him. I just don't know if you're the Nets. That's a luxury you're not looking to pay for right now, because that'd be like saying, all right, we're building a whole new team. Let's start it with our sixth man. Like, that's just not what you do, right? You got to make sure you get your other guys. It's like I always say, having a really good sixth man or a really good bench shooter, that's like having a great closer on a bad baseball team. It's just a luxury you don't really need.
Ricardo Rincon can't do it.
Yeah, that's it, man. So you got to make your moves. So I think they're just in a place where let's kind of see how that comes together with that. But yeah, and as far as Nets Daily article saying they may do another big contract, there's no reason to give Cam $1 over his qualifying offer amount until, or at least his cap hold amount, until you use up the rest of your cap space. There's just no real reason for that. That just becomes kind of mismanagement of your cap space. As it stands right now, I've got the Nets. Let's see. I believe they're the only team that's under the salary floor. Yeah, and they're under the floor by almost $19 million. Something will get done there by day one of the regular season. You have to be at the floor then. Otherwise, what happens is you get a cap hold put on your books for the difference. Then you lose out on the tax disbursement through the league. They don't want that to happen either. So they're just going to be in a position where they've got to do some stuff. So they all around, Nets are maybe the most not done team of the offseason. They've still got a lot of work to be done.
All right, let's go here. Can the Orlando Magic win the East?
Maybe.
Possibly. I wouldn't say it's likely.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's likely, but sure, why not? Anybody think Pacers are going to win the East a year ago? No. If Cleveland or New York stumbles, Orlando can be right.
That's two different things, right? Like, do they mean win the East, win the Eastern Conference Finals, and represent the East in the finals, or finish with the best record in the East?
Yeah, and you're right. That is two different things. I could definitely see them maybe winning the East in the regular season, especially if Cleveland or New York says, hey, we've got bigger goals than being the one seed. Maybe Orlando is the team that's like, let's go. Let's push for it. Let's get that. Let's have that home court advantage. We often see that. That's kind of how the Cavs got there last year, was let's really push for it. Didn't work out for them. So, So I think we'll kind of see. But, could win it in the regular season. And, I think they could be the team that breaks through. If the Cavs or the Knicks stumble, they just need to shoot, right? That's what it's going to come down to. If Desmond Bane can be what he's been his entire career, and if Franz Wagner can start hitting shots, the Magic kind of have everything they need to be, a real contender. They're really, really good.
I think the one seed is more likely than them being in the finals.
Sure.
But it's not completely impossible for either of those things to happen. All right.
This is the most wide open, and I'm trying very hard to not disrespect the Thunder, but I think the fact that the Pacers pushed them so hard and they got pushed by the Nuggets in the playoffs, teams are like, they're not unbeatable, right? Again, this is not Warriors Cavs where for like 4 years running, that's what it is. And we knew now at this time of year, on August 1st, it was like, it's just going to be Warriors Cavs again. Everybody's playing for second or hoping for major injuries. The league feels super wide open, which is awesome. I think that's really, really great.
All right, let's go here. You probably mentioned this. When can Kuminga sign his qualifying offer? I mean, right now, if he wants to.
Yep. Qualifying offer can no longer be unilaterally pulled. We're past that deadline. That deadline was a couple weeks ago, where the team could just pull the qualifying offer. In order to pull it now, that the player has to agree, which in almost all cases, the players are like, yeah, sure, make me an unrestricted free agent. That's great. But yeah, but he could sign at any point now.
Yeah, exactly. So could happen at any time.
Yep.
Now, when's the drop dead date to sign it, though?
You can do it all the way into the season if you need to, because you just stay a free agent.
Okay.
I believe that's right. I'd have to double check.
Okay.
My brain's still not fully off vacation yet.
No, understandable. Understandable. Okay. Well, I think this is a good return show. And of course, we'll be back Monday with more around the NBA. If anything big happens over the weekend, we'll certainly jump on. But we appreciate all of you for joining here. We're back in action, and we'll be, I can't say we're going to be 5 days a week during the month of August. And we may delve into some kind of off the beaten path topics. Maybe we'll talk a little Marvel. We'll talk some other things. We'll take different questions and comments throughout this month here. But we know the NBA cycle really is going to start picking up again in September. But of course, we do have something, maybe we'll see resolution with some of these restricted free agents and get some other stuff to get into here. But
we got some trade guys out there too, potentially. So yeah, we still got quite a bit going on. Yeah, we're going to be here with all of that. Here we go. Trevon Love Soup says Eyes of Wakanda. Yeah. Wakanda. But yeah, that's but yeah, I'm excited for that. With that, and then Fantastic Four was really good. I loved it. I had an absolute blast.
I gotta check it out.
Yeah, it was really good. It was without spoilers, it was a really good standalone story that then at the very end kind of tied into the bigger MCU of it all. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to get into really now the vast majority of the offseason is over and really start looking like, where do we see these teams?
Yeah.
Going forward. That's going to be a lot of fun to break down to and get into there. So yeah, appreciate you guys hanging out with us. Thanks for the welcome back show.
That's right. Thank you again, everybody. Till next time. See ya and stay safe.